My name is Diego Rivera, and I am the saxophone instructor for the Seiko Summer Jazz Camp. I'm also an associate professor of jazz saxophone at Michigan State University, a Van Doren performing artist, and a Positone Records recording artist. I hope this message finds each and every one of you well. These are some strange and unusual times that we find ourselves in, and although this time away from one another has not been easy, I've also learned a great deal about music and how important it is to my life. I've talked to so many people who are musicians, professionally, people who just love playing music, and people who just love music. And music for a lot of people has been so helpful and has been very, very good medicine for those who are suffering and those who are just trying to make it through this time. What I've found out and what I've learned is that music connects us all. So hopefully, I'd like to share some things this week that will help your musicianship grow and help your love for music grow. Because what I've learned is that as musicians, we have a responsibility to people who love music, because they will be ready to once again go out and listen to music, and we need to make sure that we're giving them the best musicianship that we can offer. Music is incredibly important for people's everyday lives, and it's incredibly important for our culture. Music is probably the best and the most peaceful way of telling the story of the time that we live in. So hopefully these videos will help you increase your musicianship and further your love for music and for music making. So the first concept I'd like to talk about is one that's incredibly important to all musicians, not just jazz saxophonists, and that is sound. Sound production is very, very important because it's what the listener identifies with us. It's also how we communicate from one musician to the next. So before we get to producing a sound on the saxophone, let's talk about some basic concepts related to breathing. Breathing is very important for a wind player because it's how we produce our sound. And without good breathing techniques, it's very hard to make a good sound on your instrument, and a sound that you feel like you can control and change to your liking. So the first thing with air is we want to make sure that we're taking a good breath of air in and make sure that the air turns around immediately and goes out into our instrument. So the syllable I like to use when I breathe in is ha. So we say this with me. We're going to go 1, 2, 3, ha. And rather than ha, we're going to breathe in and use that same shape, use that same syllable. So we have 1, 2, 3. And you try to take as much air as you can on that count. 1, 2, 3. And then to move the air into the instrument, we're going to use ooh. And it's a very relaxed ooh. 1, 2, 3. Now, what I want you to notice is that as we breathe in, we're not holding our breath in the middle and holding our breath before we move the air out. It's not necessarily two directions that we're moving it in and moving it out. We need to think about the whole process as more of a cycle. So you take the breath in, and then at the top of the cycle, the air moves out. And when we get to the bottom of the cycle, we're moving air back in. So it's one process. 1, 2, 3. And you notice I'm not going holding my breath and then letting it out, because when you introduce tension into your body, that doesn't allow for good air and good airflow to go into your instrument. So breathe with me. Again, we're going to breathe in on beat 4 with a ha syllable, and we're going to breathe out on beat 1 with a oo syllable. 1, 2, 3. And when we take a look at the air that's going out, we want to make sure that we're focusing the air. So you want to think about a spot inside the mouthpiece, maybe no bigger than a centimeter, 2 centimeters at the most. We want to think about focusing that air and moving that air right into that spot. And it's not only enough just to produce the first part of the sound. We want to make sure that we keep the sound going. So I like to use the concept of chasing the air with more air. So as you produce that first sound, you want to chase that air with more air and keep that air support going. So without the saxophone, one more time, let's breathe together. And when on our exhale, we want to make sure we're chasing the air with more air. 1, 2, 3. And the feeling in your voice, the feeling in your throat should be the same as how you talk, and the same as your natural voice. I'm not changing my voice to do this, and I'm not changing my voice, I'm not pinching. I'm trying to use a very relaxed and something that feels very natural. So now let's put air into the instrument with that in mind, with that concept. 1, 2, 3. Again, together. 1, this is concert F that we're playing. 1, 2, 3. Now obviously when we play music, we're not only playing one note. So I'd like for us to do an exercise that focuses on good airflow and good breathing habits, but also changes our notes. And this is where scales become incredibly helpful for doing these sort of exercises. Scales aren't something that we necessarily have to think about, so our attention isn't on the notes that we're playing, but the sound that we're producing. So let's start with a concert D flat major scale. So that's low B flat for alto and baritone saxophones, and E flat for tenor and soprano saxophones. We're going to play each note of the scale twice going up, and we're going to play each note of the scale once on the way down. And it's important to use all of your air at the end of every 2 measures. So this exercise is best played slow, at a slow tempo where you can focus on your breathing and really focus on producing the best sound that you can. So together, let's play this exercise. 1, 2, 3. Again, you want to make sure that you're using good breathing techniques and using good airflow into the instrument. This is an exercise that you should do every single day to get your airstream going. Now obviously when we play music, we don't always play only long notes. We need to be able to articulate. Articulation is incredibly important because it helps to define the rhythm. Jazz music is a music with heavy influence from West Africa. And as the music from West Africa came over to the Americas during the Atlantic slave trade, you started to have folks from West Africa bring their music and bring their traditions first into the Caribbean, through South America, and then into the United States, mainly through New Orleans. So jazz music has a strong and a heavy influence on its ability to tell a rhythmic story as well as a melodic story. So articulation becomes very important because it's the way that we articulate. It's the way that saxophonists use their tongue almost like a drum. So when articulating in jazz, it's important to find a syllable that not only defines one note from the next, but also that allows airflow to go through our articulations. If we don't allow for air to go through, we come up with these very choppy phrases. That's not swinging. So we need to make sure that we use a syllable that allows airflow. I like to use the D and TH syllable. In Spanish, it's the syllable that we use to say words like dos, which means two in Spanish, dedo, which is finger or toe, and donde, which means where. But all of those are what we use, what I like to use in my articulation. Again, it's a D and a TH, a combination of those. Do, 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 do. And if you keep the air going behind it, it's... If you want to think about it, it's just on the top of your tongue on just the corner of the reed. So you're not going the tip of your tongue into the tip. It's just on top of your tongue on the corner of the reed. So try that with me. 4 quarter notes on concert F. 1, 2, 3. And as we go through a scale, we're going to use triplets. Triplets are very important for not only establishing flexibility with our articulation, because you have to do them, you need to be able to tongue very fast to tongue articulate triplets at certain tempos, but it also helps us with our swing and phrasing feel. So let's go concert F major scale, triplets on every note, using the D-TH syllable for articulation. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3. So now we're going to change the articulation pattern, and we're going to tongue the first note of the concert F major scale using the first 2 notes of the triplet. The third note of that first triplet we'll use on the second note. The third note will take, again, the first 2 notes of the triplet, and the fourth note will take that third note of that triplet. And let's go up to the 9th and all the way back down. So our exercise is... If you also notice, I'm putting a bit of an accent on that third triplet. Let's play this together. 1, 2, 3. Now it's important to understand that you don't want to accent the downbeats, and the third note in that triplet gets the accent. Try it one more time. 1, 2, 3. Now as we get faster, it becomes very, very difficult to keep all of those articulations through. So let's start at a slow tempo and take out the second note of each one of those triplets. 1, 2, 3. And if we change these just to running eighth notes, they become what we know as swing eighth notes. Now, as we get faster and faster, these notes eventually get straighter and straighter. And as you can see, even though I got faster, I still kept the upbeat accented. Now there becomes a point where you need to stop articulating every single note, and then you can start accenting only the upbeats. So if you stop tonguing the downbeats and only tongue the upbeats, this is a technique I like to call back tonguing. And this is something that you would use when it becomes too fast or it doesn't make musical sense to tongue every single note. And as I play faster, the eighth notes become straighter. So it's important to do these exercises every single day, where you're working on sound, you're working on articulation, and you're working on swing and phrasing. If you do these three exercises every day, it sets you up for dealing with a lot of musical things that you'll find in your improvisation work, in written music, or sometimes on a gig. The things that you'll need to change around and be able to have loose and ready for a number of musical situations. So every day when I warm up, I try to make sure that I'm doing something related to sound, articulation, swing, and phrasing.